Today's story will take you into the sky where silence met courage, and where one woman sitting quietly on a plane changed everything. The passengers had boarded the commercial flight from Istanbul to Frankfurt on a quiet morning. Among them was a woman who said very little. She wore a simple black jacket, her hair tied neatly back, and her eyes, calm but distant, kept scanning the window as if she was searching for something beyond the clouds. Her name was Captain Elena Ward, a former U.S. Air Force A-10 Thunderbolt pilot. She had retired after a mission that cost her squadron dearly. No one on that plane knew who she was, and she wanted to keep it that way. As the flight climbed through the bright blue sky, everything seemed normal. The flight attendants moved gracefully down the aisles, serving drinks and snacks. Children laughed softly. The world above the clouds was peaceful. But 30 minutes after takeoff, the silence was shattered. A sudden jolt ran through the aircraft. The cabin lights flickered. The captain's voice came over the intercom, slightly trembling. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. We are experiencing a minor technical issue." Elena felt her instincts flare. She looked out the window and her eyes caught something most people would have missed. 2 fighter jets approaching fast. But these weren't escorts. They were F-16s, and their maneuvering told her everything she needed to know. Something had gone wrong, and the military was now involved. One of the passengers whispered, "Why are those jets here?" Panic began spreading. F-16 circled, and moments later, one of them pulled alongside the cockpit's left window. The pilot inside was gesturing urgently toward the commercial jet. The airliner's pilot's voice returned, this time more tense. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been instructed to follow a new course. Please stay seated." Elena closed her eyes for a second, reading between the lines. She had heard about such incidents before. Hijackings, communication breakdowns, or worse, mistaken identity. She stood up slowly and walked toward the galley where a flight attendant tried to stop her. "Ma'am, please take your seat." "I used to fly military," Elena said quietly. "You need to tell the captain that I might be able to help." The attendant hesitated, then rushed to the cockpit. Moments later, the door opened slightly and the captain waved her in. Inside, the cockpit was chaos. The communication system was partially dead, and the pilots were struggling to respond to the military signals. Elena quickly scanned the instruments, her training kicking in like muscle memory. "You've lost transponder response," she said. "That's why they think something's wrong." The co-pilot turned his eyes wide. "Who are you?" "Captain Elena Ward, U.S. Air Force retired. A-10 pilot. Just tell me if you can transmit manually." They shook their heads. "Comms fried. We're deaf up here, outside." The F-16s moved closer, one giving a warning flare. It was a sign. If they didn't respond soon, the situation could escalate. Elena grabbed a notepad and scribbled a quick message, pressing it against the cockpit window. The nearest F-16 pilot tilted his head, then gave a thumbs up, acknowledging the message. But before relief could settle, one of the jet's radios crackled faintly through interference, and the voice of an F-16 pilot came through. "Commercial Flight 438, this is Falcon Lead. You are off course and not responding. If you do not correct heading immediately, we will be forced to act." The captain tried to answer, but the signal broke again. Elena could hear the desperation in the pilot's tone. She knew the F-16s didn't want to engage, but protocol was clear. If the aircraft was suspected to be hijacked and heading toward a major city, they couldn't take chances. Elena leaned forward. "Tell them we're turning," she said. She guided the pilots through a slow correction to prove compliance. The F-16s relaxed their position slightly, but then the impossible happened. A warning siren blared inside the cockpit. The fuel gauge was dropping faster than physics should allow. A leak somewhere in the right wing. Fuel was streaming into Thesky. The aircraft could not reach Frankfurt. The captain whispered, "We'll have to ditch over open water." Elena shook her head. "No, you won't make it that far." The F-16s had seen the same thing. Vapor trails of fuel spilling behind the commercial jet. They radioed back to their base, and moments later, a deep, familiar growl rolled through Thesky. Elena froze. That sound, it was unmistakable. The A-10 Thunderbolt II, the aircraft she once flew. The F-16s broke formation as the A-10 appeared through the clouds, its gray paint scarred and weathered. On its nose, painted in black, were 2 words, Ghostangle. Her old squadron's insignia. The radio crackled again, clearer this time. "Flight 438, this is A-10 Hog 2. We're here to help guide you down." Elena felt her throat tighten. She knew that voice. Major Ryan Cole, her old wingman, Theon, she thought had been killed in Syria years ago. She grabbed the spare headset. "Hog 2, this is Ward. Is that really you?" There was silence. Then a deep chuckle filled the airwaves. Thought I recognized that calm voice. I never believed you'd quit flying. The captain stared at her in disbelief as the A-10 swooped alongside the wing, inspecting the damage. You've got a fuel rupture on your right side, Ryan said. You'll need to cut the line manually or she's going to ignite. Elena nodded. Copy, I'll do it. She unbuckled and moved fast toward the rear maintenance hatch while passengers looked on, whispering in fear. The flight attendants tried to stop her, but she showed no hesitation. She crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnel, her hands shaking as the cold air held around her. Below her feet she could see the thin mist of leaking fuel trailing into the endless sky. She reached the emergency valve and pulled hard, twisting until the lever locked into place. The flow stopped, but sparks flickered near the engine. She screamed into her radio, "Fire hazard! Engine 2 may ignite." Ryan's voice came through immediately. "Hold steady. I've got your 6." The A-10 dropped back, releasing a burst of suppressant foam from a modified wing pod, coating the trail in white mist. The danger faded. Elena climbed back, her face streaked with sweat and fear. When she returned to the cockpit, the captain's eyes were wet. You just saved 200 lives. But they weren't out of danger. They had to land immediately. The nearest safe strip was a military base in southern Germany. Ryan coordinated with Air Command, guiding the damaged plane through thick clouds. The landing gear shook, the wings groaned, and the A-10 remained by their side the entire descent. As the runway came into view, the passengers could see a line of fire trucks and emergency crews waiting. The pilot brought the plane down hard, sparks lighting up the tarmac, but the aircraft held. Cheers erupted in the cabin. People cried, hugged strangers, prayed aloud. Elena sat quietly in her seat as the plane rolled to a stop. Her hands trembled, but her eyes stayed dry. She looked outside and saw the A-10 parked at a distance. Ryan was standing beside it, his helmet off, saluting the aircraft she had just saved. When she finally stepped off the plane, the wind caught her hair and carried the faint echo of engines fading into the clouds. A news crew later asked her, "Why did you step in when you could have stayed a passenger?" She smiled softly. Once you've flown for those who can't defend themselves, you never really stop. You just wait for the sky to call you again. And that day it did. The footage of the event went viral across the world. The silent woman who saved Flight 438. But for Elena Ward, it wasn't about fame. It was about redemption. The sky had tested her once more, and this time she brought everyone home. So if you ever sit beside someone quiet on a plane, remember this story, because sometimes silence hides the loudest kind of courage. Like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional and true cinematic stories.